Hey, well, welcome to Newspaper Breakdown. It is the 22nd of the 2nd. I hope we are all fine. Some interesting news today. Not upbeat. I started yesterday's with some truly upbeat stuff about how good humanity can be. None of that. None. Nope. The ONS has published new figures on the differential inflation by income. Effective inflation is 4.6 percent points higher for the poorest 10% of households than the richest 10%. This is in large part due to the fact that lower income households spend a much higher proportion of their outgoings on things like food and gas and electricity, which has some of the biggest inflationary increases in the past year. Just a cheeky start to remind everyone that even though we are all in this together, of course, aren't we just? The poor constantly get fucked. So even if inflation is, and if you have a look at the difference in inflation numbers, inflation is 10.1% at the moment, but food inflation is still around 16.7%. And so if you're spending the majority of your money on food or gas and electric, you're spending more. It's very simple. It's something that we need to, we shouldn't have to get our heads around. It should be incredibly simple, but that's what it is. After official figures, this is different news. After official figures showed that public borrowing was likely to be £30 billion lower than expected, due in part to to things like high tax receipts, a fall in energy prices, and low public investment. Sunak is currently exploring a 5% pay rise for all public sector workers in an attempt to hold off the escalating strikes that have been happening throughout the UK. Government may also look into adding a sweetener to it, which would be a backdated payment as well. However, 5%, not fucking dreadful. MP's only got a 2.9% increase, if I recall. I think that's the right number. The forecast for next year is that inflation will be 5.5%. So if you get a 5% rise and inflation is 5.5%, in real terms, you haven't got a pay rise. And of course, if you take into account that inflation currently, as I've said, is 10.1%, 5% isn't a pay rise. It's better than nothing. But if you wanted to get into like technicals, nothing would be a 10.1% pay rise, whereas a 5% pay rise of inflation of 10.1% is actually a negative. You know, and then of course you look into the past, say 20 years, or no, not even 20 years, say 13 years, where nurses have actually had a 20% decrease in their wages in real terms, and it's just numbers. It's just numbers that we all should understand. But either way, the hopes of the one-time front-runner for the leader of the SNP, Kate Forbes, seems to be in doubt after she said in an interview that she is against same-sex marriage due to her faith. She also said that having children outside of marriage was wrong. Just an all-round lovely religious fuckhead. There are two trains of thought I've seen on this particular story. One of them is her beliefs shouldn't affect her ability to lead the SNP. And the other, quite rightly, side has said, yes, her opinions and her beliefs do matter when she's running a political party. Of course they do. It would be stupid to suggest they don't. Not going to go too long on that particular story, because those who claim that someone's opinions, beliefs, fucking personality does not have any effect on whether or not they can do a job, especially a job as important as leading what is the biggest political party in Scotland, is insane. Absolutely insane. Of course it matters. Otherwise, what are you going to fucking do it on? What are you basing voting for someone on? If it's not what their fucking policies are, and their policies come from their fucking opinions. That's it. That's how it works. Can't have someone in this day and age who's against same-sex marriage be the fucking leader of the SNP, which is quite a left-leaning fucking party. It doesn't work like that, you fucking morons. Anyway. Retailers Asda and Morrisons have said that they will ration a series of salad products after disruption to harvests through bad weather in southern Europe and North Africa. You can expect shortages for weeks. The National Farmers Union has said that the domestic production was falling in agricultural sectors from salad to eggs as well. So not only are we having disruptions from abroad, but our own production in the UK is also falling. The NFU president has said that supplies of salad vegetables grown in the UK greenhouses were falling due to high energy prices, making it uneconomic for some growers to operate. We now currently have the lowest level of productions since 1985, which is when the records began. Cuts, they go on to say, the cuts to post-Brexit farm subsidies combined with steep rises in prices of raw materials, labour and energy were leading to production falls in other areas of agriculture, including eggs, with almost 1 billion fewer eggs produced in 2022 compared to 2019. So, as with everything, although Brexit may not be the highest cause, there is still certainly something, and I'm yet to see all of the photos of the European nations in the EU who are having to put on shortages. Of course, if they do, I retract that particular statement. I just haven't seen it yet. What else we got? We've got the All-Party Parliamentary Group for Financial Education has said that a lack of support for teachers means UK schools are falling short of the legal requirements to teach financial literacy to all children. We have 2/5 of teachers do not know that financial education is a legal curriculum requirement, and schools are still struggling to teach a subject that has been mandatory since 2014. Here's a question for you. Did you know it was mandatory? Because I didn't. I'm not a teacher, but I didn't have a fucking clue. I consider myself to have me finger on the old pulse for a lot of this, but not a clue. The APPG recommended the government back an awareness-raising campaign and extend legal obligations to teach financial literacy in primary schools. A group also said that Ofsted should explicitly examine financial education in schools when they investigate them. Financial education is remarkably important. That alongside critical thinking, which critical thinking is massively important, and critical thinking isn't what the far right podcasters and comedians and tedious bores claim it is. So when I say critical thinking, I'm not meaning their horseshit. But financial education is very important, especially when we see the rise in digital currencies, fake bollocks, cons, Ponzi schemes, MLMs, NFTs, all of these fucking backward shit. You need people to understand, especially children coming along. It's why I think it's very useful to bring back football stickers. Because then you got a grasp of economy when you were there trading with each other. That's where I got a first grasp of the potential different worths of things. I can't give you fucking this Man United badge shiny for 6 Jason McAteers. That's madness. Yeah, financial education important. That's it. What else we've got? We've got a couple more stories left. Oh, this is a hefty one. Is this a hefty one? Yeah, it is. No, it's not. Cool. 3 stories left. So we've got the Department for Business has published its impact assessment of the strikes minimum service levels bill. It has been condemned as it is not fit for purpose, which is surprise. The bill, which is currently going through Parliament, is designed to curb the impact of future strikes on public services by forcing employees in key sectors like transport and health to keep working. Basically saying you can't strike, which is taking away the whole point of a fucking strike. The impact assessment drew a broadly favourable picture of the legislation, but was slammed by the Regulatory Policy Committee, a group of independent business, academic and legal experts that are convened by the government. So the government's impact assessment is this ain't bad, whereas independent people said, yes it is. The RPC described the cost-benefit analysis of the policy as weak and not fit for purpose, saying it is not always clear what evidence has been used. It's always important when you're doing an impact assessment that you are very clear on where you're getting your facts and figures and what you're saying is good, because if you don't, everyone else thinks that you're talking horseshit. The RPC pointed out that although the impact assessment listed similar policies already in effect around Europe, it failed to include details of the minimum service levels in those places, nor their effectiveness. So it's all right going, well, look, everyone in Europe has this, or these fucking 6 countries all have minimum service levels. Look at that. See, it can work. And if you just stop there, it's not enough. You have to say, these are all got it. All of these got it. This is how it's working. This is what they say. And this is the effect that it has. But they haven't done that because that would be competent. At present, the legislation does not actually set out how the rules will work. Because of course it doesn't. Why would it? This is one of them, the continual thing you see from this government and from governments of the past fucking 13 years, is they've got this plan, they've got this idea that they want to take away freedoms, but they're not going to fucking tell you how. They just want the power and then they can decide what to do with it. That's it. It's fucking terrible, really. 2 stories left. Yes. A parliamentary report by the House of Lords Environment and Climate Change Committee has urged ministers to boost the profile of the £450 million boiler upgrade scheme after disappointingly low take-up numbers for the scheme that encourages households. Where did I get to that? Oh yeah, households to upgrade gas boilers to heat pumps or other low-carbon alternatives. with only a third of the annual budget has actually been used since May 2022, when the scheme was launched. The scheme grants £5,000 to allow people to upgrade their boiler to a low carbon replacement. That's a good policy. And you'll notice I rarely say that they've done a good policy, but that's a good policy. The thing is that if this fails, it will be the latest in the country's long-running climate cock-up policies, after the effective ban of onshore wind farms and the cuts to solar power incentives. Two things that would be remarkably useful if we're trying to head towards net zero. I like the idea of having a lot of roofs having solar panels on them, and then a little battery where you get your own energy. And then if you get too much, you can set it back to the government or to the power people. But I've done no research to know if that would work. I just like the idea. But I'm not in power, am I? The committee blames the efforts to present hydrogen as the solution for home heating as a major reason for the scheme's failure, saying it was not a serious option for heating in the short to medium term, and a misleading message, including from the government, has negatively affected the uptake. It should be important to note at this point that hydrogen tech firms have been lobbying the government to boost its use, because money talks and our government's corrupt. Final story. Analysis compiled by the Environmental Working Group, which is a non-profit that tracks PFAS's contamination, or PFAS contamination, has shown that hundreds of animal species across the globe, from ticks to whales, have blood contaminated by toxic PFAS. Scorpions, pandas, Siberian tigers, turtles, horses, dogs, plankton, sea lions, wild boar, and oysters have all been found with the chemical in them. PFAS are a class of about 12,000 chemicals, often used to make products resistant to water, stains, heat, things like that. They are called forever chemicals because they do not naturally break down. They are linked to cancer, liver disease, kidney stress, fetal complications, and tons of other fucking serious health problems. Nearly all Americans now have this compound contaminating their blood, and it can spread around the world. So you've got animals in the fucking Arctic and Antarctic who've never seen a Teflon fucking non-stick pan in their bloody lives, but have PFAS toxic chemicals in them. It's another thing. Like, don't forget, we are majority. We've got like microplastics in us. I gave up smoking to try to be healthier, and I'm there going, what's the fucking point? We're mostly chemicals and microplastics at this point. I've got the idea that the reason that we're fine with this is that the rich people are trying to get rid of one-use plastics by making sure that we're plastic enough that we can do all of their fucking work. So we'll be the ones that will replace one-use plastics. So like fucking straws will be there, and having to tip it in, fucking put our hands and become rich people's straws and shit. Oh god. Well, that's it. There'll only be Wednesday and Thursday for the rest of this week because I have shit to do on Friday. But I hope you enjoyed it, and I shall speak to you later. Bye.